McGraw-Hill Ascent Audio presents The Zero Transaction Cost Entrepreneur, Powerful Techniques to Reduce Friction and Scale Your Business, by Dermot Berkery, narrated by James Cameron Stewart. Preface: 12 Techniques for Generating Great New Business Propositions. Do you want to become an entrepreneur? Or are you a manager in a company that wants to generate new business propositions? Every company, tiny or large, should be thinking about future engines for growth. What are the business propositions that will drive fast growth in revenues in 5 to 10 years, beyond the propositions that the company delivers to the market today? Every business proposition eventually becomes tired or is overcome by better competitors. Constant renewal is critical. Yet business leaders struggle to identify these future engines for growth. They are often exclusively focused on near-term performance improvement. To the extent that long-term growth is on the strategic planning agenda of the company, it relates to growth within business units rather than the creation of new business units to add to and ultimately replace existing business units. To build these future engines for growth, the first place to start is with great ideas for propositions that will excite customers, consumers, and businesses in future years. Too often, business leaders expect these ideas to bubble up from within the organization. Business leaders have the macro perspective on the market in which the company operates. They need to take back the process of idea generation. However, they need tools to do this. For too long, idea generation has been considered a creative process less suited to the analytically minded that populate the ranks of senior business leaders. This book will help business leaders to take control of the process of idea generation. They will find 12 powerful techniques for generating new business propositions. These techniques leverage economic theory to provide insights to how the world will change in ways that might yield value to entrepreneurs and their customers. These techniques can be applied to any sector in any location. By the time you finish this book, you will be an idea generation machine for any sector to which you decide to turn your mind. Over to you to figure out which of your ideas might be world beaters. Chapter 1. Why do other people come up with all the brilliant ideas? The popular press is full of stories of swashbuckling entrepreneurs dancing on the graves of staid old industries and, with a bit of magic, conjuring up billion-dollar businesses. These entrepreneurs are portrayed as creatively destructive geniuses who would put a smile on the face of Joseph Schumpeter. They seem larger than life, with pearls of wisdom, all in hindsight, mind you, regarding how they foresaw the world about to turn on its axis and how they applied the coup de grace to make it happen. The cult of personality surrounding these winners puts them on a pedestal like modern-day prophets. We expect them to show up at Davos and hand down tablets engraved with nuggets of wisdom about technology for poverty alleviation in war-torn nations, or new techniques for saving the planet by boosting the libido of the humble bee. What chance is there for the rest of us mere mortals who have never had an original thought? We seem to be lacking the great aha moments of these legendary entrepreneurs in their air-conditioned garages. We don't have billion-dollar ideas, never mind $100 ideas, even after we emerge from our annual weekend mindfulness retreat. Yet, when we look at these brilliant ideas that our fated heroes came up with, we are bothered by the distinct and deflating feeling that I could have thought of that. Think of the businesses that have grown from zero to huge valuations in recent years. Tesla. Hang on, weren't electric cars being discussed 100 years ago? Airbnb. Starting by helping people to couch surf, it now facilitates renting of apartments in Barcelona. Hadn't I booked many holiday rentals over the years by phone or even online, long before Airbnb? Uber. Haven't taxis and private car hire been around for a long time? These are great businesses with remarkable valuations, but clearly their propositions are not rocket science or as challenging as curing cancer. So, why did these entrepreneurs succeed? One thing these entrepreneurs did well was to take these good ideas by the scruff of the neck and make them happen, execute them better than anyone else, normally earlier than everyone else, but not necessarily. Fair dues to them. Who among us hasn't benefited by staying in a relatively inexpensive IKEA-furnished apartment in Barcelona, owned by a charming lady named Carmen, who is delighted to introduce us to her city and tell us where to get the best paella? It is easy and churlish for the rest of us to look back and to say that those successful ideas were nothing magic. Everything is so clear in hindsight. But the success of these entrepreneurs was about more than just trying hard. Their timing was perfect. The world truly was ready to turn on its axis. They were there to nudge it on its way. The goal of this book is to help you to spot where the world is about to turn on its axis and to get your timing just right. It aims to help you to look forward and to develop an informed judgment regarding where you might capture value if you are inclined toward entrepreneurship. Crudely put, where are the fruitful places right now and in the near future where you might make lots of money? So, where do we start? If you are an aspiring entrepreneur or a manager in a large company who wants to create a new business, the place to start is to generate revolutionary new business ideas. This book will help you to do so. Specifically, it is about turning you into an idea creation machine, not by mind-bending brainstorming, but by the application of economics. The answer is in the economics. Transaction cost economics. Transaction cost, TXC economics, are like physics. Physics determine how everything in the world behaves in relation to other things. TXC economics determine how everything should be organized in relation to every other thing. While you are probably unfamiliar with transaction costs, hold this thought. The way the world is organized today is due to the current landscape of TXCs. Look around your home. How you live, everything you have, the way your home is constructed and laid out, where everything is located in your house, perhaps even the shape of your family, all are determined by TXCs. For example, items like your coffee maker, your toaster, and your kettle are probably sitting on your kitchen counter rather than in a cupboard. Why? Because you don't want to waste the time every day getting them in and out of a cupboard. The opportunity cost of your time, an important TXC, is too high. Look at the company you work for, the way that it is set up, the organizational structure, the processes it follows, whether it outsources a lot or not, its physical locations. These are all governed by the TXCs to which it is subject. Soon you will be seeing TXCs everywhere. Follow the analogy to the rules of physics. If we could relax a rule in physics, the way in which every object behaves and the way in which it relates to every other object would change. For example, if we could change the mathematical equation governing gravity, things would start flying around. Similarly, when TXCs fall, and fall they must, as you will soon discover, the way the world is organized starts to change, sometimes very rapidly, sometimes slowly, or even imperceptibly. But eventually, change it does. The fundamental economics always win. Revolutionary new business ideas are based on the gap between A, how things are organized today, and B, how they should be organized tomorrow. The difference between A and B is an opportunity for an entrepreneur. While you might not yet be ready to accept the proposition, I hope that within a short amount of time you will appreciate that the difference between A and B is solely due to TXCs falling. What does this mean for entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is the capture of value from falling TXCs. New business opportunities arise when TXCs fall, as the world then becomes overdue a realignment in business activity and organization. If entrepreneurs, including ambitious managers in large companies and people in their garages, etc., understand the changing landscape of TXCs, they will be well placed to understand the value pools that are ripe to be tapped. What is so exciting for entrepreneurs is that TXCs are falling. Indeed, many TXCs have been collapsing in recent decades and will collapse much further. Yet entrepreneurs have barely scraped the surface in taking advantage of this phenomenon. In general, the pace of decline over the millennia of human existence has been imperceptibly slow. Now, things are different. The TXCs are falling fast. As a result, the way the world is organized is a lot different from how the TXCs suggest it should be organized. There is a big gap between A and B. It is as if the rules of physics have changed, but the objects in the world have not yet realigned themselves to reflect the new rules. There is a glut of value in underexploited TXCs waiting to be unlocked by entrepreneurs. We can't all be as creative as Steve Jobs, and we don't need to be. There are endless opportunities lying around waiting to be acted upon. We just need to put on the right set of glasses to find them. TXC glasses. So, what exactly are TXCs in practice? Chapter 2. Falling Transaction Costs. Blockbuster versus Netflix. Perhaps the best way to bring TXCs to life is through a simple, well-known example. For those of us old enough to remember, Blockbuster Video Rental and other similar rental companies was fantastic. Beginning in 1985, those of us with kids could guarantee that we had a good movie to keep the crew entertained on a Saturday evening. No more hunting around to exchange armfuls of VHS tapes and later DVDs with friends and relatives, or having a fruitless Saturday night hoping something decent showed up on TV. The latest, greatest movies showed up in Blockbuster not too long after general release in cinemas, and we all hurried down to the store to be first to get them. With babysitting at $8 to $10 an hour, a trip to the movie theater was an overpriced night out. Blockbuster's revenues grew into billions, and the distinctive blue movie ticket logo started to show up on main streets around the world. It is hard now to remember how good we all thought it was at the time. After movies began to be available on DVD in 1997, in 1998 Netflix introduced its DVD by mail service. Customers paid a monthly fee and created a queue of movies that they wanted to see. The faster they watched them and returned them by mail, the more movies they got to see. The service was reasonably successful, and even as of 2021 had revenues of $182 million. In 2007, Netflix again embraced new technology and launched its online video streaming service, and in a very short period, streaming wiped the floor with the earlier video delivery methods. The Main Street rental store went the way of the dinosaurs. In hindsight, it was obvious. Streaming is clearly immensely more appealing to consumers. Try explaining the concept of video rental stores to people under the age of 25. Yet at the time, it wasn't so obvious as we feel it is now. People loved Blockbuster, other than those bothersome late return fees. Indeed, Blockbuster could have pursued its own streaming service, but declined to commit to it. As we look back, the Saturday escapade becomes a bit clearer. It involved a minor negotiation with my spouse about who was going to go and get the DVD, a drive with the kids to the rental store with a hassle to find parking, and firm instructions to get a light rom-com when I was aiming to get a culturally enhancing action movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the kids wanted something with happy music and dancing penguins. Of course, unless I got there early on the Saturday, all the newly released movies were long gone, for which they wanted to charge you 2 or 3 times the normal movie price anyway. After lots of disputes, we all had to sit down at the same time to watch it. Worst of all, we had to endure the drive to the rental store for drop-off, after another marital discussion, often missing the deadline by 5 minutes and having to pay a late fee. Looking back, it was almost comedic, but at the time, we all flocked to use it. All those hassles with getting a DVD from Blockbuster were transaction costs. In the words of economists, TXCs are inhibitors to exchange. They either prevent us from consuming what we would like to consume, or they reduce the rate at which we consume. We would like to watch a certain movie, but we must jump through all sorts of hoops to see it. In fact, we never wanted a DVD, we wanted to be entertained by immersing ourselves in a great visual story. This is an important distinction that we will return to throughout this book. When the TXCs come down, and there are fewer inhibitors to exchange, people consume in new ways. They also can increase their rate of consumption in unforeseen new ways. Aha! The numerically inclined people will say, Blockbuster cost about $5 for a good movie, and we can watch many hours of video on Netflix for roughly $10 to $20 a month. The financial cost per hour of video is much less, so why wouldn't people consume more? This is just simple supply and demand curves. But clearly, the reduced financial cost is not the true reason people are watching a lot of video. The financial cost is irrelevant to the discussion. The real TXCs with Blockbuster were those of getting and returning the DVD, the marital discussions, the limited selection, the empty shelves, the late fees, and the general hassles. These TXCs placed boundaries on the lives of consumers around the world. Consumers wanted a certain movie at a certain time, often right now, and someone had placed an obstacle course in front of them to prevent them from getting it. As a test of the power of reduced TXCs, one TXC is the opportunity cost of my time, which we will explore later, subscribers to Netflix were apparently watching an average of 3.2 hours per day in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. Compare this to a 1.5 hour per week movie from Blockbuster. We cannot even begin to count the hours spent watching other videos on various social networks, how-to videos on the internet when an appliance breaks down, dancing cats on YouTube, and so on. Transaction costs, TXCs, are those costs incurred in an exchange between two parties that are not to the benefit of either party. Party A and Party B want to do business with each other, but TXCs get in the way. They are the friction that inhibits or prevents the exchange. TXCs may sound complicated and best suited to a technical conversation between mathematically adept economists, but nothing could be further from the truth. They are, instead, the hidden strings that shape and govern our lives. Chapter 3. Falling transaction costs will lead to perfection in our lives. Due to video streaming, we have incredible quantities of video to consume at our fingertips. Want to watch every season of Breaking Bad or The Sopranos? No problem. Interested in the endless cooking programs by every chef under the sun? No problem. Want to share a funny video on Facebook of a cat talking? No problem. Need to see the goals from last night's football game that you missed? No problem. The entirety of films, TV series, and other video filmed in the world is almost at our fingertips, and we think nothing of it. On the video watching front, we can glimpse the future. Our lives will become progressively perfect. For our purposes, perfection means we have whatever we want, whenever we want it, and it will be simple to access. That's where we are headed. Perfection is a world of zero transaction costs. TXCs are the hassles that we must endure while trying to get our wants and needs met. But TXCs are on a one-way journey in the general direction of zero. Not that zero on every TXC dimension is ever really achievable, except perhaps in infinite years. Zero TXCs would mean that we could click our fingers or have a thought, and every single need or want would be fulfilled instantly to perfection. It sounds ridiculous. Clearly, this is all a very long way away in many areas of our lives. Perfection is coming quickly in digitizable aspects of people's lives. Along every dimension of people's lives, TXCs are falling, some rapidly and some very slowly. The fall in TXCs is relaxing the constraints on people's lives, sometimes even constraints of which they were and are completely unaware. Lower constraints open up possible new business models. The reduction in TXCs in the Netflix example demonstrates one way the constraints on consumption can be lifted. People will find that perfection may come quickly in areas of life that can be digitized. We have a taste for what perfection might mean in these areas, and we like it a lot. When our wants are met perfectly by a service, the way we consume that service becomes more intense. We can type a query into a search engine and get an answer to almost any question a human can pose. Many books are already digitized and available at any time and any place. We have access to ubiquitous video. We think nothing of the ability to phone a large percentage of the world's population and talk to them instantaneously, and often for free or for zero marginal cost to the provider. We are irritated if we leave our phone at home and lose our always-on capability. Our relationship with social media is often described as addictive. We are well on our way to perfection in these areas, or at least that is how it looks from the vantage point of today. Maybe in a few years, the video-watching world will be a Netflix-type service, or maybe it won't. Maybe the service we are getting from Netflix and the other streaming services today will go the way of the Blockbusters of yesteryear. Perhaps the Netflix of today will be looked on as just another intermediary whose goal was to get between consumers and the movie producers and extract their monthly fee, a portion of which they pass back to the video creators. Maybe soon TXCs will be low enough for us not to need Netflix, as we, as consumers, will be contracting one by one directly with the movie producers to have them produce what we want. Maybe then the movie producer will then just be another intermediary that is getting between us and the true talent, the wonderful actors, directors, and screenwriters. Maybe TXCs will fall low enough to allow me as a consumer to contract directly with George Clooney and Steven Spielberg for my specific wants. Maybe in the year 2040 we will look back on these supposed areas of perfection and laugh at how primitive and high TXC our consumption of video, books and music was in 2023. How fascinating such a world would be. Our world will be continuously reshaped as falling TXCs open exciting business model possibilities. In many sectors, perfection seems to be a long way away. Other than digitizable products and services, we have many other wants where things are a long way away from being perfect. Indeed, the notion of perfection is inconceivable to us for mundane wants like personal services, hairstyling, physiotherapy, trades, plumbing, electrics, construction, or last-mile delivery. For these wants, we get more of a high TXC Blockbuster-type experience than a Netflix one. With these non-digitizable wants, we are plagued with TXCs, such as an inability to search the market, problems trusting suppliers, and the tyranny of geography. More on these in later chapters. But, as we will see, even these knotty TXCs continue to be eroded, and new ways of meeting customers' mundane wants and needs will become possible in the manner that video streaming wiped out DVDs. Perfection is where we are headed, and not just for wants that can be served digitally. The role of the entrepreneur. This is where the role of the entrepreneur comes in. Entrepreneurship is the capture of value from falling TXCs. The exciting part of being an entrepreneur is trying to figure out what happens next. Where are the places where value will be available to be captured on the TXC journey? Which TXC has fallen, but other entrepreneurs have yet to take advantage? Which TXCs will fall next that the entrepreneur should position herself against before anyone else? While perfection is the destination, what is most important to entrepreneurs is the journey. The entrepreneur needs to take advantage of the difference between the landscape of TXCs today and TXCs tomorrow. Falling TXCs signpost the pathway to perfection by progressively unlocking the possibility of new business models. Lower TXCs allow customer needs to be met in new ways. Of the 12 techniques for generating revolutionary new business ideas using TXC thinking that we will explore in this book, the first is that of imagining perfection. Technique A. Imagining perfection. Perfect fulfillment of our wants. A great place to start hunting for exciting new business propositions and new products is to explore what it would take for the consumer or business customer's underlying wants to be met perfectly. Perfectly means a zero TXC satisfaction of my wants and needs, but perfectly is a more powerful and simpler concept for us to conceive of, a lot easier than asking people to imagine a zero TXC experience. Ultimate perfection in the eyes of a customer might be a proposition that would be impossible for any entrepreneur to deliver, except perhaps in some very distant future scenario. But if we know what perfection looks like, we have a chance of reconceiving the existing product or service and generating a new entrepreneurial proposition that begins to take the customer in the right direction on the perfection journey. For example, let's start with buying an ice cream from an ice cream shop. This activity is about as simple as it gets. How could the fulfillment of that want, occasionally a need, be made perfect? TXCs in the ice cream experience. Tucking into an ice cream on a sunny afternoon is already pretty high up on the list of life's wonderful experiences. What might possibly be done to make it a perfect experience? Thankfully, most of us, author included, are unencumbered by knowledge of the business of ice cream, other than as consumers, so we can be liberal with our ideas. So why isn't the ice cream experience completely perfect? Let's start with a few concerns, in no particular order. Why does ice cream melt faster than I can consume it? Why do I need to handle it carefully to avoid it dripping and ending up on my jeans? Why is my cone given to me at a temperature not quite cold enough to last until I manage to lick it down? Or, as the economists might say, why does the melt rate exceed the normalized lick rate? I suspect this is due to the need to make it scoopable for the server, but that should be their problem, not mine. Why does ice cream contain so many things that are bad for me? Sugar, fat, etc. Yet these are probably the things that lead me to pine for the product in the first place. Why on earth do they serve ice cream for small kids on the same precariously balanced cones as everyone else's? We all know these are going to end up on the ground and induce temper tantrums. Why do I experience embarrassment when I get to the front of the line and start to get interrogated by the server as to which flavor I want, which toppings, which cone or cup or sundae? Why does it feel like I need a master's degree in ice cream design? How do you really expect me to order flavors such as pralines and cream, daiquiri ice, and rainbow sherbet when I have no idea what they might taste like? Why can't I have an ice cream in my hand right when I want it? Now that I am right.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?